Hello, it's me, and I've been asked to do a viewer request on this 2x3x4. So I figured, well, I've shown how to assemble it, or how to put it together, and how to put it back away from its bandaged form, but I never actually did go through a pure tutorial on solving it. So I figured, well, I'll fill in the gaps with that. So this is what I call a brick cuboid. This is of a certain type of a cuboid that carries the form of n by n plus o by n plus p, where o is even and p is odd, or the other way around. It doesn't matter. But roughly that's a good approximation of that. And it causes it to have certain characteristics. So 2x3x4, generally what you're going to have is you're going to have only two sides that can actually four sides that can be turned into each other, make a 90-degree turn, and then turn at right angles from there. The other sides, you can't do that, and that's because of the even to odd to odd to odd to even characteristics, that you can turn an even side into another even side, or an odd side into another odd side, and then complete, after a 90-degree turn, another 180-degree turn, another turn at right angles from there. So this does that only along this plane, but not these other planes here. Now you can look at it at the truest form. If it were to bond with a family tree that's close to it, you've got the 1x2x3, which is of the purest form over there. 1 to 3. Basically, you can turn this here, and in this particular puzzle, you actually can make shape-shifting turns like that, which is kind of cool. Anyway, 1x2x3, 2x3x4, of course, the almighty 3x4x5, where you have the 3 to 5 layer turning at 90 degrees, and then able to complete right angle turns with that, but not able to do that at this angle. So you're always going to have two layers that can only mix with each other, while you have the other four sides that can mix with each other, causing the shape-shifting 2x3x4. But truth be told, as long as you have that form, you can have other variations of that, like a 1x2x5. This would qualify as a brick as well. This is one of Ola Jansen's various masterpieces. And after the 2x3x4 of the same form would be the 2x3x5. So this fits that criteria as well. The 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So actually you can have the 3 and the 5 layer turn, and then you can make right angle turns with that as well. But you're always going to have two sides that can only mix with each other, while these four sides here can mix with each other over here. But if we were to go to continue to go through the other purest forms there, the 3x4x5, of course the 4x5x6, where you have the 4 and the 6 portion layers that can do its shape-shifting turns. And then, of course, my newest addition, the 5x6x7, as we go up and up and up in terms of the size comparison with these puzzles. Whoa, big hunk over there. So to solve each one of these bricks, the strategy is very similar, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to start us at the beginning and just sort of start us off with this puzzle over here. We'll put the rest of its family, I suppose, in the background here. To solve this puzzle, it's really necessary to look at other puzzles where we're going to be sharing strategy, so to speak. Because the thing about a brick is you're going to have to use domino strategies and possibly shape-shifting strategies in order to get it done. What's unique about anything that it has the lowest layer, in this case 2, is really we're dealing with corners only as opposed to edges. There's no edges that we have to deal with. So it shares a lot with the 2x3, 2x3x4, 2x2x3, and in some cases also the 2x2x4. So I guess somewhere in between these two is you're going to find this, but you have to know how to solve this. You have to have some experience potentially with this, and just for the sake of showing, of course, here's Ola Jansen's 2x4x4, which is a floppy. It really is not quite related in terms of the solve strategy. So there's a couple of steps when solving this. Now, first off, when looking at a brick and deciding how to solve a brick, find what your top and your bottom layers are going to be. And these are going to be the layers that are only going to be able to mix with each other. So I had to get rid of that tablecloth. It was too many projects with the kids and was putting glitter all over the puzzles. But in any case, so in dealing with your 2x3x4, find what your top and your bottom layer is going to be. And these are the two layers that only combine with each other. In other words, you can't do a move like this and do another 90-degree move. You're only going to have these two. Now the particular color scheme in your MF8 2x3x4 may be a little different, so you might have to adapt it accordingly. But in this case, the 2 to 4 layer, these are going to be your, I guess, middle layers, the ones that are going to go around the perimeter. And this will be the top and this will be the bottom. So as you're doing your scramble here, I'm going to just start off with 180-degree scrambles like so. And this is just by way of demonstration. Now when you do your 90-degree turns, then you can just turn it, you go turn the 2 to 4 layer together, and now from here you have to do 180-degree turns from here. Now again, this is assuming that you fix this and it's no longer bandaged. And then turn over here, here, do every so often do a turn like this, which will add to the... Alright, so notice as I'm scrambling this, you're going to have two layers that only scramble with each other. In this case, in my case, it's the yellow and white. Here you can get red, orange, blue, and green. So these can all scramble with each other like so. Until you have something that approximates a pretty good scramble over here. So, how do you approach this? Well, here's how I generally approach this kind, bearing in mind that there's no real edges that you have to deal with in a functional way. It's really just going to be corners. The first step of the scramble is you're going to actually solve it like a 2x2x3. The reason that you're doing a 2x2x3 scramble is with all bricks, you want to first get it back into the cuboid form. You want to make it once again look something like this. So to do that, in order to make it look like this, even though it's still going to be scrambled, I'm going to use domino strategies for the purposes of getting it back into the cuboid form. Now, why am I doing this? Now, I call this a domino. A domino is a particular type of cuboid that has the form of n by n plus o by n plus o, or n by n plus o, where o is any odd number. The whole key with that is it actually has the same form of this. You've got two layers that can only do 180-degree turns. If I try to turn it like this, it's not going to turn. But I've got layers on across the side that can do 90-degree turns and then turn from there as well. So in that, it has the exact same form. So really, this is, for the first part, a 2x2x3. And if you notice, as you scramble this guy over here, back and forth, and this is really the most simple example of a solvable brick if you wanted to just practice with that. As I'm scrambling this over here, there's a couple of characteristics of this which are very well demonstrated by this puzzle. Okay. And turn. Let's get a better scramble going on here. I don't like that. That's pretty good. Okay, so here is so the first part is going to be to solve it just like a 2x2x3. Because when you think about it, this only moves in that way. I have 1, 2 over here, so 2 here. This last part is bandaged. So 1, 2 over here, 1, 2 here, 1, 2. So it's just like 2 and 2 and 2 across this layer, and then I have 3 down here. 1, 2, 3. So in that way, by solving it like a 2x2x3, I'll get it back into this cube form. Now I want you to notice something too. When you're solving a 2x2x3, the way that I do it, for the just simplicity of solve, I guess, is you want to first solve your middle layer over here. And also notice that because we have even number here, we don't know which is actually supposed to be the top or supposed to be the bottom. We know that the top and the bottom are only combined with each other, just like these. You're only mixing the top and the bottom. Here you're mixing all colors on each side. In this case, it's just shape-shifted when you do that. So the first step, you're going to find the middle layer. Now this is the easiest to find because these only mix with each other. So these two, back and forth, this layer here, just like the top and bottom, they only mix with each other at opposite ends. So the red and yellow only mix with each other. Here, the green and blue only mix with each other. So too, if you notice, even though this entire face can mix all four colors, the middle portion can only mix with each other from the other side. This and this. So in this case, the red and orange can only mix with red and orange. Blue and green can only mix with blue and green, even though the entire face can mix with each other. Same kind of thing. Now again, your color scheme may be different. So learn the form as opposed to the actual colors. So the way to do this is it's pretty easy. I'm going to put the other green one over here, and that happens to be on the side. So all I have to do is just double turn it like this. I got the two greens here, and for this, you just double turn it again to put the yellow over to here. So bang. So you're going to very easily and quickly fill in the middle layer over here on the 2x2x3. What you're going to want to do then is you're going to want to get the top and the bottom. Now the question is, what color is supposed to be here? Is it the black or is it the gray? Black or the gray? It's not known just by looking at it. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to correlate these little cubies with what the middle layer shows. So if we were to look at, say, this color over here, let's put this right next to the color that correlates it in the middle layer, and you can see it doesn't correlate. What that tells me immediately is that this is not going to be the black layer, it's going to be the gray layer, because this blue doesn't match with this over here, and this is black. So if I put, say, this one, if you look at the gray one, the blue is here and the yellow is here. So now I know this is the gray bottom. This is the gray layer over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this upside down, and now I've identified that gray pieces are going to have to go down to here. So what I'll do is, let's find the piece that's supposed to go next to this, and that's going to be, in this case, the other gray and blue. That's going to be found up here, and what I'm going to do is put it on the right side to where this needs to come down to here. So this will make sense because this is gray, red, and blue, which will fit fine over here, gray, blue, and red. So in order to bring this down here, we're going to do a corner swapping, well actually this is what I guess we wouldn't call it a corner swap. We're going to do a corner switching algorithm that switches this over here. When this comes down here, this will also flip. And what that is going to be on the right side, go 2R, U, 2R, UI, 2R. Very simple algorithm. Now this did two things. It did swap this down here, but it also took these two areas here and it swapped these two as well. So just to reiterate, we started with this over here. To bring this down, there's a price to pay because I can't just swap these two without doing something else. According to the law of cubes, as you recall, number one, you cannot cause one edge piece to flip by 180 degrees. Law number two, you cannot have an odd number of swaps. Number three, you cannot rotate one corner without rotating another. So basically, I can swap these two, or I can put this down here, but these guys have to swap as well. So we just have to bear that in mind because we'll be able to swap it back as we do the algorithm again. So 2R, U, 2R, UI, 2R. So there that is. Now this is why we have to keep this oriented like this. So I've got this in place and this in place. Now I'm going to turn this over here, and I need the next white piece or gray piece. Well, here's a gray piece over here. Is this the one that I want? And the answer is no, because I want the one that's red, which happens to be this one. So this piece, in order to be placed, does not get placed here. This piece is going to have to be placed over here. So I'm just going to put that in position like so. Put it over here. So this piece will now come down to here to be next to this. So just kind of do that kind of planning, but we have to make sure that this swapped middle area is still to the right because now we're going to swap it back. 2R U, 2R UI, 2R. So now we can match these edges back up, and you can see we've got this in the proper place. Now we have one more to go, which is this. So I'm going to put this over here. Now we have to bear something in mind, predict what's going to happen. I'm going to put this down and this layer is going to be solved. The problem is that I'm going to end up with this out. I'm going to have placement parity, misplacement over here. So we don't want to do that because maybe I'll have this in, but now I'm going to have these two that's out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the move, but I'm not going to do the right move yet. I'm going to do a dummy move. I'm going to move this over here, and by swapping this down here, I'll do a dummy move which swaps these two. Then what I'll do is I'll put this back in, which will bring this back. Now I'm sure there's easier ways of doing this, but just because I'm trying to do a kind of a beginner's way of doing this, that's the best way to end up with the first two layers without ending up with placement parity here that we're going to have to deal with. So let's bump this out of the way first, do the algorithm just to get this out. To our U, to our UI, to R. So it did nothing except swap these two, but now I can put this in place and go to our U, to our UI, to R. So now we have these two layers in. Now here's an alternative thing that you can do if you didn't want to take that step. You're going to have to take steps anyway. Let's put this down and just go ahead and let this be out while I have this one in here. To our U, to our UI, to R. Okay, so this is in, but I got placement parity here. So I might as well introduce the other algorithm that swaps these two. What you do is you turn it, hold it over here. This is going to swap these two. Hold it over here. Now it's not just going to swap these two, but luckily it's going to do nasty things to this layer, which we don't care about yet, but won't touch this layer here. Turn it to the side, and when you have these two, one to the right, the other to the left, just do the algorithm to U, to R, to F, and then to U, then to F, to R, to U, to F, and that'll fix it. So that's another way of doing it. So it's really just kind of pick your poison. Then you've got to deal with the top layer. So now dealing with this top, what we're going to do is when dealing with a 2 by 2 by anything, you're always going to have a moment where you have two colors that are the same. In other words, two corners that are in. Now this is a very similar strategy that we use when you have middle pieces. If this is a 3 by 3 by something, a 3 by 3 brick. But because it's a corners only, look for the one where two corners are in. When you have that, you can match it up where it's supposed to be. It's got no choice but to be where it is. And classically, you're going to have a situation where you've got two that are out. So these two need to be swapped. So what you're going to do is you're going to hold it to where the two that are in are to your left side, and you're going to do an algorithm which is going to effectively swap this. To which you're probably saying, well, wait a minute, you just said you can't do that. You can't do a swap like that, and that's true. So what this algorithm is going to do is it's not actually going to swap these two. What it's going to do, strictly speaking, is this will stay exactly where it is, and it's going to do a 3 cycle. This will come here, this will come here, and this will come here. So it's actually a 3 swap. But when this comes here, this red one is going to be oriented to this. These two are going to slide over to here. So when you think about it, these two are still going to be in the proper correlation with each other, proper position with each other, but this is going to plop here and it'll solve the whole thing. So it will look like these two actually swapped, when in reality it was just a 3 cycle. This to here, 1, this to here, 2, this to here, 3. So what that algorithm is, with this to the left, to our U, to our UI, to R, then do UI, and then the bottom D, and to our UI, to our U, to R, and then this is moved back. Now classically you'd move this back also, because then this would occupy the same place where you started, and then you did all of your swapping around exactly what I said. But we'll keep it over there because it'll look for all intents and purposes like it was a swap here, and that's how you solve the 2 by 2 by 3. So with your 2 by 3 by 4, we do exactly the same thing. Now, a couple of rules of thumb that have to be borne in mind here. We're going to start off with the middle layer. We're going to pretty much ignore anything that doesn't look like a 2 by 2 by 3. So that means the center area here. I've already said that this is like a 2 by 2 area here, but what am I going to define the colors as? I'm actually going to define the actual colors of the 2 by 2 area as the terminal end. So in other words, these two pieces are bandaged together, pretty much. But I'm going to define this as the yellow, as the orange, yellow, and blue. This color has no meaning. Same thing here. I'm not defining it based on these centers. I'm going to define it based on these over here. So these two together make up red and purple. Red and blue over there. Yeah, so that's how that's going to be defined. So this over here is not red and white, doesn't have any correlation with anything, but it's going to be orange, white, and green. So start off with a middle layer, the middle membrane, just exactly the same. Well, this is going to be orange, so I want to have the orange one over here. So the orange one is here. What I'm going to do actually, and it might be easier to visualize, so here's the green and blue. We'll just take the green here and plop it on over here. So double turn that here, so green and green, blue and blue. But now I have to make these correlate, and I'm not defining the centers based on these colors, but based on these colors. So here's the red over here, double turn that, and there it is. So believe it or not, even though this looks like these centers are in over here, I'm not defining this as my 2 by 2 by 3 component based on these. I'm defining it based on these. So that's how things are going to be. And the reason is because now I have to deal with these. Now it's just like with this, I didn't know which was the top and which was the bottom because it's even layered on those sides. Same thing here. Okay, I know what these middle membranes are, and you can have a variety of different conformations. You can have yellow, red, orange, red, red, orange. You can have orange, red. You can have orange, orange, red, orange. It doesn't really matter. Suffice to say, just define it based on this. So I'm going to do the same thing. Is this supposed to be white or is this supposed to be yellow? Well, let's take this over here and see how it correlates. The red side is actually over here. And you can see that the white doesn't correlate because although the red is here, it should be green. So I know that this is not, in my case, again, your puzzle may have a different color coordination. It's not the white, it's got to be the yellow. And to confirm that, I happen to have this over here, yellow, blue, and red correlates with these colors over here. So I'm going to put this on the bottom and say that this is yellow. I have decreed this to be yellow. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put all the yellows down where they're supposed to be. So here's a yellow. I'm going to look for the one that's yellow, blue, and orange. Do I actually have that up here? And the answer is yes. Yellow, blue, and orange is here. So this is going to come down to here, and the same rules apply. When you do your corner swapping or corner switching algorithm here, when this comes here, it's going to rotate into here. Now, understand also it's going to cause placement parity within this middle membrane over here, this middle layer. So we know that that's going to happen. So these two are going to be offset. But same thing, 2R U, 2R UI, 2R. So you can see this is now where it needs to be. We have placement parity here, so we're going to keep it here. So don't get confused with what's going to come next. So now what I need is I want the one on this side if I can. It's orange, so this is going to be yellow, orange, and then it's not blue, it's going to be green. Remember, this is the blue side over here, this is the green side. So I'm going to turn this over here. So what's going to have to come here is green, yellow, and orange. Do I actually have that? And that's up over here. Green, yellow, and orange. So this is going to do two things. This will put this in the proper place over here and switch this back. Now again, this may seem kind of subtle and it might seem a little confusing, but remember, this is blue, even though we have placement parity here. So this whole thing is blue, ignore this, and this is going to be orange, ignore this, which means this side is going to be green. So when I move this over here, it's got to be the green, orange, and yellow, and that's up over here. So 2R, U, 2R, UI, 2R. That's the fun part of this puzzle is you have to skew your perspective. So we've got this back, turn this in, and now you can see what I'm talking about. This is correct. I move this here, and this is correct. Yellow, rather orange, yellow, and green. So now this is where it needs to be, and we took the placement parity out of that. So now what's supposed to go here? Well, it's supposed to be the green, yellow, and red. Green, yellow, and red. Is that up here? And the answer is yes. Green, yellow, and red. If I do the algorithm, this will lift this down to here. Now understand, this is the last one. So when I put this down here, I'll have put this in the cube form, but I'll have placement parity here. Now you have a choice at this point. Either put this down and get the placement parity and deal with it the same way that we dealt with this, or don't do that, put a dummy one in first in order to create the placement parity, and then put this one in. Let's put it in and see what happens. 2R, U, 2R, UI, 2R. As promised, this is all solved, ignore these, but we've got placement parity here. And just to show you, you can solve it exactly the same way as this early on, is we'll move this to the side, one to the right, one to the left, and let's go ahead and do that algorithm that we were talking about in order to fix this. And that's 2U, 2R, 2F, 2U, 2F, 2R, 2U, 2F, and no worries, now that's all fine. Again, don't get confused by this. We're defining it based on these. So you can see our 2x2x3 first two layers are solved. Green, green, red, red, blue, orange, orange. Now I just do the top part. Now with the top part, once again, you look for the one where two corners are in. It's not these two, certainly not these two, it's these two, and not these two. So I can ignore this. It is going to confuse you from time to time. I'm just going to move it in to the orange side. And with this over here, I'm going to move it to the side and do that swap. When I swap it, this will end up here and this will end up here. In reality, this stays the same. This comes here and these two shift over to here. So 2R U, 2R UI, 2R UI D, 2R UI, 2R U, and 2R, and then move this back and you got it. So basically, you solved it like this, and you ended up back in the cuboid form. Once you do that, now you have to do the next step, and this is a very brick type strategy at this point. Now we do 180-degree algorithm turns in order to move all of these back into position. The algorithm that I showed you to solve for these two is exactly the same. So that's the good news, is there's not going to be any difference. What I'm going to do is, now that I have it back in the cuboid form, you're free to kind of move things around a little bit. Obviously, these are the true centers here, and they're not where they're supposed to be. So we have kind of a choice. Now, your particular situation at this point is going to be as unique as whatever situation that you come up with. In my particular situation, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move these to a center like this. So now I've solved this entire center over here. So that wasn't too difficult. Now I'm going to be dealing with these guys. So to deal with these guys, what I want to do is I want to start moving them using 180-degree algorithm turns. Now, in this case, the 180-degree algorithm of the 2U, 2R, 2F is going to be a little different when you have two. So I would just start putting things in as best you can. So you've got a white and orange together. You're going to get at least one like that. Let's move this where it's supposed to be. This is supposed to shift over here. So what I'm going to do with this algorithm is it's going to put them both on the left and the right, do it, and these two will swap. Just like these two swapped, it'll do the same thing. But the variation when you have two instead of one, before it was just one, the even layered version is you split it down here with your 2U, then in the middle, you're going to split it here and here. Now you can't do this if this is bandaged, but you can if you did the fix. So start off with splitting it down right in the middle of where your placement parity is, and do 2U, 2R, 2F, and then you do a 2U splitting here, and then just go one above that and do another 2U, and then 2F, 2R, and then your final 2U's where you split it originally, 2U. And that did bring that over to here. So now I'm just going to keep piggybacking on that, and I'm not going to be able to get them all in. What I'm going to do is, I can see these two reds. I've got a red and white and red and yellow. I certainly want to put this red and yellow over here and this over here. So I'm going to swap these two. These two are going to swap too, but I'm just going to continue to use that algorithm to put them in bit by bit. 2U, 2R, 2F, 2U, 2U, 2F, 2R, 2U. So we're getting a little closer, and as you can see, these two just don't appear to be right. And what about this? Well, I want this to end up here, and I want this to end up here. So let's go ahead and swap these guys here. Now, you're probably thinking, fine, we put this here, but now this is going to come up here. What good is that? Well, at least we're putting more in than was before, because in this configuration here, only one is where it needs to be. By the end of it, this will be here and this will be here, so then I'll have two where it needs to be. Now, I'm kind of building to a point with this, so just keep doing that algorithm the whole while putting more in at the end of it than when you ended up with. So here, only one is in. By the end of it, this will be here and this will be here. I'll still have two that are messed up, but I'll have two that are in instead of one. 2U, 2R, 2F, 2U, 2U, 2F, 2R, 2U. Okay, now here's what's going to happen. Inevitably with this puzzle, you're going to end up with this situation. This is what I call the brick parity. With this brick parity, the problem is you're not going to be able to match two. And the reason is because you have two edges that are appropriate, two edges that are fine. You're really supposed to have all other edges fine as well, but you don't. You just have these two. These guys don't correlate, these guys don't correlate, and these guys don't correlate. So you're going to end up in a situation where you have 1, 2, 3 edge pieces that are out. So how do you get rid of that? How do you deal with this? Well, this is the brick parity. So get it to the configuration where you just have 3 that are out. You might not get that situation, but with this puzzle, more often than not, you will. So what you're going to want to do here is this floppy parity, not floppy, this brick parity algorithm is going to take this piece here and it's going to put it to here, and this is going to come to here. So this will come here, this will come here, and this will come here. So by the end of this, we're going to have this guy popping into here, which is where it needs to be, and this is going to come over to here, and this is going to loop up over to here. Now this is the right-sided version. The right-sided version means that the one that's out is always going to be on the right side. There's also a left-sided version of this too, which is really just the opposite of this. So you can just do the opposite, and I'll have that in there. So hold it to where this is going to dive back to here where it needs to be, but this is going to slide into here. So this comes to here, this comes to here, and this comes over to here. And what that algorithm is, if it's on the right side, is start off with a 2F, then U, 2R. Now R, of course, is defined as these two over here. So 2R, UI, 2L, U, 2R, UI, 2L. Then after you do that, you reset it again with another 2F, and then you do a 2 little r, which means that it's just going to be this middle slice over here. So you just do a 2 little r, then get it back with a 2F. That actually kind of reset things. Then finish it off with a 2L, so this is going to be your L over here, 2L, U, 2R, UI, 2L, U, 2R, UI. We got it back to the cuboid form. Then we just do another 2F, and we have all this lined up, and then we do 2R. So that's how you do that with the right-sided version. If it's a left side, you just invert everything and do it opposite. If you mess it up, just keep doing that, you'll eventually get it. So that is basically it. Those are all the pitfalls and pratfalls that you're going to end up with a 2x3x4, which you're going to want to bear in mind, of course, and I hope I demonstrated it well enough. Having the knowledge of how to do the 2x2x3, use a 2x2x3 strategy to get it back to the cuboid form, then you use 180-degree algorithms to get everything in as much as you can, save for 3, then you use these parity algorithms in order to get that back in. So as such, this fades back into the respective family tree here for the bricks. Solved initially like this, and I don't know why I brought that out. Why not? More on newer bricks later. Thanks for watching.